Welcome back to the Fruitful 3 Show. Woo! Your go-to podcast where we challenge ideas and break down complex topics, conspiracies, blah, blah, blah. Today's episode is all about the evolution of music, specifically focusing on country, rock, and rap, and how people have sometimes misinterpreted these genres.
Okay, so the reason we got on this topic was because the other day I saw a TikTok of a pastor talking about a song that he absolutely loved growing up, but never actually understood the lyrics to it. So then, a few days after that video, I was cruising on home from work and listening to 92.9 The Eagle, which, if no one knows who that is or what that is a classic rock station here in Nebraska for the listeners out there who, like I said, don't know what it is. But yeah. And then Sympathy of the Devil came on by the Rolling Stones. And growing up, I've kind of always liked that song. It had a nice tune to it. It just kind of all blended together, right? And I always knew it was about the devil. Like, the lyrics to it, you knew it was the devil. But I honestly didn't truly understand it. And then as I was listening to the lyrics, I was like, wait, hold on here a minute. I think I got this all wrong. Yes, it's about the devil, but it's also talking about other things too. Because you talk about like stuff that was going on in the world. The time that it came out in like 1968 during the Vietnam War. It talks about like the time of when Jesus Christ was around and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It talks about like World War II. It talks about all this stuff. So I kind of was like, hey, let's do some research on this song because I think this whole song has been misinterpreted throughout the years. So I did. And I figured out that Mick Jagger, the lead singer, wrote this song because he saw that the devil's hand was at work with everything. And that was and so he saw the devil's hand at work and was like, hey, here's a song about all the bad times growing up, all the bad things going on in the world right now. And it got me thinking, if something like that was misinterpreted and it's just like, oh, it's a devil song, oh, it's about the devil, it's devil worship, as some people would classify that as, are we misinterpreting other songs too? Or misinterpreting other lyrics? Do we really understand what the artists themselves are trying to put out there, or are we just labeling it as devil's music or something else? That is why we are diving into this topic this week.
Yeah, so we'll take you through the evolution of music and the future projects that will be released soon. But first off, the cooler season is coming and the Fruitful 3 Show merch has the lineup for your fall and winter activities, including hoodies and long sleeve shirts. Go and get yours today at icentertainment.net/merch.
You should probably tag that in this. It might be easier.
Yeah, I do it through Instagram so I can tag myself.
Gotcha.
You got to go through Facebook. Since you're an admin, you can go through and tag yourself on Facebook. You know, and you got the power to do that. You just got to do it.
What I was going to say is, because some of our people won't actually remember that. So, but if you had a link that they could click on.
Well, I put it in the YouTube description every week.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have ads on Insta.
Gotcha.
The weekly recap, Husker football lost. Their next game will be at 11 this morning. Because when it airs, it'll be this morning. This morning.
And as we are currently recording this, so I don't screw up like I did last time, Husker volleyball girls are starting Big Ten play tonight.
Ravens beat Cowboys, barely, and Chiefs beat Falcons. That's literally all I have for recap.
And going off of that, is there, no matter which way you look at it, there was a bunch of questionable calls during the Huskers game that could have gone either way. Also, there was some questionable calls during the Chiefs game that could have went Falcons' way. So, if you want to say the NFL is rigged, you can. We might touch on that sometime later on.
The Cowboys played last night. Well, as of while we're re-recording. Cowboys they went to go kick a field goal at the end of the 33 seconds or whatever left. You could tell the kicker missed on purpose, bro. And they're like, this guy has so many more wires than all this, and I was like, you could see that he lined it up and he knew he was gonna miss it, and he missed it on purpose.
Also, the other thing is going back to, we can discuss this later as another topic, but Rob Gronkowski has officially came out and said that the NFL is rigging games for the Chiefs, but they never rigged them for the Patriots. So after seeing that, I was like, maybe here's another topic we could cover sometime, obviously, as we were just talking about questionable calls.
Yeah. What is your favorite? Can't speak tonight either. What is your favorite genre?
What is your favorite song?
Oh, I was actually asking you what your favorite genre was. I mean, yes, this entails to you as well, but I'm asking you.
It kind of varies, honestly, on my mood.
Honestly, same.
I mean, if you can go anywhere from AC/DC to Lil Jon to Hank Williams Jr., we can absolutely be friends.
It's just that what I don't like Spotify's algorithm, because it's I select one genre and it has to play that genre. It's I just want a mix of everything, of all the songs. It's I don't want to go in there and create playlists. I don't want to spend hours.
If I'm being honest, I think things have kind of fallen off after 2010. If you want my own personal opinion on this.
Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah. You got a point.
Everybody has their own opinion. That's my opinion.
It's really just EDM that's still good. Even some EDM songs are just why did you produce them, bro? Okay, so I guess my favorite genre would be hip hop, because I mainly listen to hip of the hop. To the hippity hop. Okay. What is your favorite song? You probably don't have a favorite song.
I don't know if I have a favorite song.
I don't either. So, what is your favorite song? And who's your favorite artist?
Well, I can tell you, back in the day, growing up, it was AC/DC.
Back in black. I hate to say.
It was AC/DC and Eminem, and then
Eminem's a good one.
It was kind of Jason Aldean, kind of Brantley Gilbert, the country country scene. I can't talk now either.
Hey, it happens, bro.
But the country scene is, the minute the rock kind of era kind of started in the country, is, I mean, I like Kenny Chesney growing up, Alan Jackson, them guys, but when the country scene, or the rock scene, came into the country world, that was kind of when I jumped more on board with.
I guess my favorite artist, well, it used to be Eminem, and then it's I don't really have a favorite artist anymore. If you really go off of what I listen to a lot, it would probably be NF, because I mainly listen to NF since he's actually really good and he has a wide selection of moods that I can listen to.
Honestly, if I'd have to say an artist today, I would probably have to say Ryan Upchurch, or Tom McDonald, or Adam Calhoun.
The politic raps.
I mean, it's more the fact of it's not really political. I mean, it is political, but
it's literally what their genre is called.
But it's more the fact that I kind of liked Eminem at first because he challenged the country. In the beginning, he spoke a lot of truth about the country world and a lot about Nashville and how producers work in Nashville and how he wasn't going to be part of that. And that was kind of where I got hooked on that. It was just one of those things where it's like, you know what, you're not your typical person, you're more independent, so on and so forth, and you're just gonna go do your own thing and speak truth. And honestly, there needs to be a little bit more. I think honestly there needs to be a lot more people out there speaking truth instead of following like mainstream media.
Yeah, what's trending.
Yeah.
They should be telling the truth of the trends. All right, so tell us what your thoughts are on all those questions, because I wrote a lot of questions. It's just 3 questions, but that's a lot. So we're going to hop in. So let's start off by taking a look at how these 3 genres, country, rap, and rock, have transformed over the years. Country music, for instance, dates back to the early 1920s. Originally known as hillbilly music, it drew on gospel, blues, and folk influences. It was deeply rooted in the working class experience and
Interestingly.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Got you covered. Got you on the rebound.
Included musical traditions from marginalized communities. So country music is for the hardworking 9-to-5 people that...
So this next line is fast forward to the 1990s. So let's go before that. Let's go into the 80s. Like in the 70s, 80s, there was this, what they called outlaw country. A lot of these artists, they weren't liking the Nashville sound, and they didn't care for what was coming out of Nashville. They wanted to produce their own stuff, like Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, them type of people.
They want to go back to the hillbilly style.
They were, so it's called outlaw country because they made their own music, and it was not your traditional stuff coming out of Nashville, and it was very rebellious at the time.
Oh, that was just the rebellious time of the country.
So moving on to the 1990s, we see stadium country booming with artists like Garth Brooks leading the way. But here's where things get interesting. Country music starts to flirt with rap. Anyone remember Lil Nas X Old Town Road? That song broke barriers by bleeding country and rap in ways we hadn't seen before.
That's not actually the first time. I mean, I guess for rap, well, not the first time for rap, because there's country rap, but there's also Avicii. He produced an EDM with country music and EDM and some other one.
And some of it started with like Hank Williams Jr. and I'm going to randomly spaz out later in this episode because I can't think of who the other one was. But there was a couple other country artists in like the 80s that were starting to bring, I won't really say like hip hop beats to it, but they weren't your typical country sound. They kind of had a little bit more modern style to things, and that kind of evolved that whole. The other thing too is, if you want to go a little bit more recent, Beyonce recently came out with a country album. Depending on who you want to talk to or which side of the fence you want to sit on, she received 0 votes for it at the CMA Awards, and that is getting a huge backlash from the Black community and other people, because they believe that since she was the first Black woman to make a country album and the first,
it was classified as fake country.
I mean, I didn't know that, but I also know that there's a lot of riot going on right now with the country scene, and a lot of the whole racist issue that's going on in our world now. The country artist is getting at the target of being white privileged again. So yeah, that fun, lovely stuff. You're like, whatever, dude.
Now over to the rock scene. Oh man, where do we even begin? Rock exploded in the 1950s and became the soundtrack of the rebellion. The genre pulled from blues and jazz, but by the time the 70s, 80s hit, you had everything from glam rock to punk rock. The Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Nirvana, all these legends paved the way that rock is today. Although its dominance has waned in recent years, rock still plays a significant role, often blending with genres like electronic music, and even hip hop. To the hip of the hop, to the hippity hop. Yeah, so you got any notes on that?
I mean, besides the fact that like the 1960s was kind of like the British Revolution, we're going off of that rebellion, is a lot of people consider that like they weren't really like devil's music, stuff like that overseas. It wasn't really different, and so a lot of bands moved to America where they found what's the word I'm looking for, the respect that they wanted, or the popularity that they needed to succeed. That's about it. And then you get into like the 90s where there's like grunge rock and stuff, and I don't know, and then it kind of, I don't really know what I call the 90s. There's a lot of good songs that came out of there, but
it was mumble. That's what they classify as a mumble rock. Okay? Mumble rock.
So like today's rap game is mumble rap.
Well, we're kind of starting to get out of the mumble rap finally. So yeah, so there was that period in the 90s. We had the mumble rap in the late teens. So it happens, bro. It happens.
Oh, like I said, there's also a couple of good bands that came out of that era.
Yeah, like Nirvana,
Blink-182,
Green Day. Okay. And finally, rap. Born in the Bronx of the 1970s. It started as a voice for the marginalized, a way for communities to express struggles, hopes, and everything in between. From Cool Herc's breakbeats to Tupac's socially conscious lyrics, rap has become a global phenomenon. The way it emerges with other genres is mind-blowing too, whether it's rock or even country. Yeah, so there's that. I mean, I used to know a lot about rap, and I could have just, studied it and remembered everything and just went off on that, but yeah, I really don't care about it much anymore.
There was a lot of like gang violence that was going on in that time, and
that happened in the late 80s.
Yeah. And one band that specifically comes to mind is NWA.
Yeah. So
because
it started out as Peace, Love, and Unity. PLU. Peace, Love, and Unity. Because what they were doing was they weren't allowed in the disco scene. That was the 70s, the disco scene. Blacks weren't allowed in the disco scene, so they had their own block parties, their own discos. And people were using the turntables and spitting bars and everything and having their own dances. And that's where rap started to begin. And then, there's the debate of who started the rap, which you could go in the 50s and look at old bands that were spitting bars. But the most popular one was Rapper's Delight, right? By Sugar Hill Gang. That was like the first.
I know, kind of like, wasn't like Bob Marley kind of like one of the...
Bob Marley was reggae.
There we go.
Reggae. So
I know he kind of had an influence on the rap game too a little bit.
Yeah, it gave space for like Jamaicans to actually give more of their voice to the rap scene.
There we go.
Yeah, now we went to the teens where we had mumble rap. We're starting to get back to the lyric rap. There's still a little bit of mumble rap, but I was going to go into how the whole revolution of how the gang violence started. But anyway, if you listen to music from the 60s, it's about loving your girl, respecting your girl, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, F that. And, all that other abusive stuff and cheating and everything else. And it's like, we have came so far as a society.
Well, first of all, this kind of leads into our next segment a little bit. So,
hey, if you got the transition to lead us into the next segment, by all means, more power to you.
So, our next segment is misinterpretation of lyrics in secular music. So there has actually been studies out there that have shown that like country people who listen to like a lot of country music are more depressed, and
Because it's depressing music.
yeah, like they're depressed. And then like rap and hip hop, they're like loyal and everything. And I mean, yeah, they spit their game on the mic about
Family, drugs, and
gangbangers and all this other stuff, and
pimp daddies.
and like screwing whores and so on and so forth. Pimp daddies is another, like you said, that kind of goes into, and I don't remember exactly what rock, how they classified rock, but
They're more abusive of drugs.
yeah, I think that's what it was. But it's just funny of how that kind of goes into our next segment, because it does that come into like lyrics, or is that kind of how?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
That's a really good question.
because like
Could be the melody, it could be the frequencies, it could be
exactly,
the notes.
yeah,
Because each note holds a specific frequency that you can also you can do the mathematics, which is really cool for each note, and you can get your own BPM. Each note has its own BPM, which is beats per minute.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, okay.
I assume that's what it was, but I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
So thanks for the explanation there, buddy.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I wanted to make sure.
And also our viewers learned something too if they didn't know what that was.
Yeah, BPM stands for beats per minute. BPS, guess what? Stands for beats per second.
What? No way.
Crazy, bro.
No, right?
I know. Gosh. Learning so many cool things right now. Thank you for watching the Fruitful 3 podcast. That's it. We'll see you tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, now here's where things get a little controversial. As these genres evolved, some of the lyrics were misinterpreted, especially by those who thought they promoted secular ideas or unwholesome messages. Let's start with rock. Remember when it was labeled the devil's music? A perfect example of the Rolling Stones' sympathy for the devil. When it was released in 1968, people immediately assumed the song was an embrace to of the occult or devil worship. But that wasn't the case at all. The song was inspired by Mikhail Bulgakov's.
Sorry if we butchered your name, buddy.
Yeah, that's like a Russian name. Well, I shouldn't classify that as Russian. It's like Russian-ish style. Novel The Master and Margarita, a complex exploration of good and evil, and it reflected the chaotic political and social upheaval of the time. Mick Jagger crafted lyrics that examined the dark side of humanity, not to glorify it, but to challenge the societal norms and provoke thought. But as often the case, people heard devil and jumped to conclusions. In reality, sympathy for the devil was more than a reflection of the struggles and atrocities of the late 60s, including the Vietnam War and civil rights movement than the promotion of evil.
The same thing happened to AC/DC. They were often accused of having a darker, rebellious image that sparked public misconception. The name AC/DC was which simply refers to alternating and direct current, was misinterpreted by some as a nod of bisexuality or even Satanism. Like the Rolling Stones, AC/DC's bold, energetic style, coupled with provocative lyrics, led to a lot of people branding their name as harmful or controversial without truly understanding it. Taking their hit song Highway to Hell, for instance, people heard the title and assumed the band was promoting devil worship, when in reality it was more a reflection of the grueling life of being on tour. The irony of that, these rock legends were pushing the boundaries of music and self-expression, yet people focused on superficial elements names, symbols, and even clothing choices rather than the underlying message in their music. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into this whole AC/DC thing because, like I said, one of my favorite bands growing up was AC/DC. So with that being said, they were an Australia band originally, Malcolm and Angus Young.
Don't you mean they were Scottish?
Yeah.
Scottish band?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is in Australia where it kind of all started.
I just know they labeled it as Scottish band.
Yeah.
When you sent me the link, it said Scottish.
But I know, like, I don't remember exactly where they did it, but I do know that they were two brothers, Angus Young and Malcolm Young being the older brother. But what they would do is they go and have guitar competitions, and they go and play in contests and everything else as either a duo, or they'd compete against each other to get the crowd energized in it and just show off how good they were.
Which is where AC and DC comes from, because one takes a charge and one gives a charge.
But so they went to a New Year's Eve show. They were at a show, and they went and they did their gig, and they never really had a name for themselves at that point. So they get home, and their sister is sewing together Angus's school outfit and working on it. And on the back of the sewing machine had AC/DC on it.
Because one takes a charge and one gives a charge.
So when they saw that, they were like, oh, there we go. That's what we're going to do. They took that and they decided that they were going to put the lightning bolt in the middle of it because obviously as it's all deals with voltage and electricity and stuff. So it only made perfect sense to divide the two. And well, when they came to America, people started classifying them as Antichrist, Devil's Child. They kind of took it and they kind of ran with it because they figured if that was how their music was going to grow and sail, they might as well put the devil in their songs. They might as well put hell in their songs, so on and so forth. And that's kind of how AC/DC grew with this whole rock thing. Is there was a lot of things that went on that said if you play certain songs backwards, the devil had messages in them. And there was a lot of religious people out there, which I can tell you for a fact, if you play certain songs backwards, there are hidden messages in them because 92.9 has actually done it. Like how, you know what I mean? Like you can tell there's like a message back there, but everybody claimed that your brain, instead of producing the song forward, somehow your brain produces a song backwards and they get that satanic message. And that was their argument back in like the 70s and 80s. Whether that is true or not true, the perfect person to actually ask for that, to actually be on this at the moment, would be Mom, because she went to one of those things.
Well, did she?
Yeah, because Sheila told her that it was devil's music and she didn't believe Sheila, so she actually went to one of the things and she kind of walked away with, I think they're lying to me. Like according to her, there wasn't enough evidence, and they had a bunch of evidence, but it wasn't like hardcore evidence to provoke her to switch her theory.
We just need to get a record player and a bunch of old records and just I guess it's this one.
One song they claim if you listen to it backwards has satanic message is Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. Some artists were actually very talented, and they would purposely make hidden messages. So yes, it could be Angelico a lot of artists like to have like spiritual warfare. So you could listen to it one way and it was a walk with God. You can listen to it a different way and it was a walk with the devil. Yeah.
Because you were always constantly fighting the spiritual warfare in the head.
And like the story behind the Stairway to Heaven is they were all sitting around a campfire, and the story pretty much goes that the fire talked to them and wrote them. And so obviously, as the devil is related to fire or hell, like
God also presented himself as a burning bush and other things on fire.
yeah.
But
But
where spiritual warfare comes in.
what I'm saying is that's like you think, like when you think fire, what do you think of? Majority of the time, it's usually devil, Satan, Lucifer, hell type stuff instead of God, like godly Christian. I'm saying as majority of your time, that's where your mind goes.
And this isn't just exclusive to rock. Country music, for example, also faced accusations of being secular, even though it originated from deeply religious and working class roots. As country songs started incorporating themes like drinking, partying, and even love in rural settings, people began labeling them as sinful or inappropriate. Yeah, I listen to country music, and it's like
The reason I've kind of stopped listening to, okay, let's put it this way. The reason I've stopped listening to mainstream country,
like the radio,
yeah, like
because it's really just a lot of depressing music.
like if you listen to a lot of like underground country singers or the guys who don't really hit the mainstream,
Because they don't make depressing music.
oh no, now I'm gonna lose his name in my head. But there's even times where I'll listen to I'd rather listen to their older stuff before they got popular on mainstream, because some of those are actually,
They're actually writing from the heart instead of writing to just make it big.
there's a song out there by Thomas Rhett, and it was one of his albums before he got popular. I think it's called Middle Class White Boy. And he talks about how he played football, but he wasn't good enough to be a starter. And all your mainstream guys talk about playing football and winning natties and all this other stuff. Or not natties, but winning natties. Some of them probably went on to college. And
I was like, man, I would have been more motivated to win games if I was winning natties. Like, man.
all right, fine. Winning state championships, but some of them probably did go on and win a few natties. I'm not gonna deny that. But no, yeah, and then he talks about how he used to like bump into DMX.
DMX is a great rapper.
And I mean, it's one of those songs where you can so relate to it, because it's like he talks about playing, like I said, playing football but not being good at it and being a backup, and talking about working hard, talking about how his dad liked country music but he didn't like it and he'd rather listen to DMX and stuff, and now he's making country albums and never thought that he was gonna kind of
take off.
He never thought he'd end up in the country scene, which
It happens.
Which to me is probably the most realist stuff you're gonna.
And speaking of DMX, because we're on the topic of devil music, he's always classified as devil music. DMX is, because of his dark, hardcore lyrics. But actually, DMX was one of the realest rappers at the time, as he was socially conscious. He always talked about being with the dogs,
Yeah.
And I was watching a documentary, and it kind of just dawned on me that like he knew that we were dogs to society because we were chained. We had societal chains on us, and that's why it made us dogs, and we would always follow something else than follow our real passions and real things in life. And he was always talking about spiritual warfare too. And that's why DMX is always one of my favorite rappers, is because of the spiritual warfare you can tell in all his music.
And so before we go on, I mean, that'd be the great hitch onto the next topic. But
yeah,
what you got me thinking of was spiritual warfare. was going back to like the rock scene because of Black Sabbath and stuff. Ozzy Osbourne, if you don't know this, he is actually a Catholic. He grew up in a Catholic church. He still goes to mass. He still goes to confessions and all this stuff, and yet he is labeled as, was it the son? Like, I can't remember what he's exactly labeled as, but he's labeled as a satanic person, and he is basically the devil for the rock game or the rock world. And yeah, and he's the one who kind of everybody falls on as the son of darkness, is kind of what he's labeled as.
Just Catholic people in general are wild. Let's just be honest. Well, moving on to rap, the number of times people have labeled rap as harmful or dangerous all the time, just because of its unfiltered expression. While it's true that rap tackles tough subjects, inequality, violence, love, loss, these are real issues that communities face. The storytelling in rap is raw, real, and often misinterpreted by those not willing to dig deeper into the social messages behind the beats.
With that being said, is it kind of all depends on where you grow up. Is kind of how, I mean, if you're getting this kind of where I'm getting it, is it all kind of
also depends on how you grow up.
Yeah. I'm like, when you study each category, it kind of comes down to where you grow up, because like for us, we grew up in small town Nebraska and rural Nebraska where there's a bunch of farming communities. So what's the number one genre that's around here? It's more country than anything.
But I don't like country. And maybe that's why I fell in love with rap, because I was rebelling.
And that's kind of why I never got big into country a lot too growing up, and just because it was always around us, and rock was more, I don't know, I liked rock a lot more. And
I connected a lot more with rap.
And like rap is
expressing yourself.
Like you talk about like suburbs,
Well,
say, and
there,
like
there's a lot of like I grew up in South rap, because that was the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
South rap was
Southern hospitality.
Yes, exactly. And like the Midwest scene blew up at that time too, but it was really South rap that was dominating the charts at that time. So there was that during my time period growing up. So, and your time period, since you were still in high school.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, as it kind of depends on where you grow up, because like a lot of the times is when you grow up in a poor community in a city, it's probably gonna end up being more rap, because that's just kind of the culture. If you grew up in like say rural Nebraska or more of a farming community, it's probably more country. And then rock is just kind of all over the place.
Well, it blew up in the Midwest and then expanded outward. That's like the true Midwest music right there. Is rock. And the future of music is shaping up to be just as exciting as its past. Country music has experienced a resurgence of traditional sounds. Artists like Tyler Childers and the Wildflowers are bringing back the roots of Americana, while still blending modern influences. And are some killer collaborations in the works. Imagine Blake Shelton teaming up with Carrie Underwood or Keith Urban and Casey Musgraves, creating some genre-bending magic. In rock, we're seeing a revival of the classics, but with a modern twist. Bands like The Strokes are infusing digital elements with gritty rock sounds. Rock may have taken a backseat in the 2010s, but is far from gone. What I'm really excited about is Linkin Park is coming back, bro. We got a new lead singer, and they just released their second song this weekend.
Was it Emily Anderson? Yep, is a lead singer there.
And she's really good. I'm excited to just listen to Linkin Park again.
So the other thing too is like Greta Van Fleet, they've kind of taken that Led Zeppelin sound and brought that back. There's
it's like just Led Zeppelin.
It's like Dirty Honey is another one. They've kind of they're kind of like a, sometimes they're like a Led Zeppelin 2 sound, but then they also blend it with other things. They just kind of take kind of like the older stuff and put it into their songs. I enjoy all these artists coming back and bringing the old sound back. It's just I don't really care much for some of the lyrics.
Yeah.
Because it all seems like it deals with mental health now if you listen to rock. I don't know if you've caught that trend or not.
Yeah.
But I have.
I mean, well, they got branded to the misfits of society that were emo or bullied, and so then it's, you just kind of get your place, and that's where you kind of have to write. And that's where a lot of rockers are coming from now, as that generation is now the musicians. So it's about mental health and trying to be aware of all that. In the world of rap, it's evolving faster than we can keep up with. Emerging stars and fresh beats, artists are pushing the envelope on what rap can be. We're seeing new movements like drill music and AI-generated beats are becoming more common. 2025 is going to be a year of new voices, new sounds, and massive collaborations across all these genres. I'd like to say that country is actually on the uprise right now. Last year was Christian hip-hop, Christian rap, however you want to call it. And now, but the last couple years, country was down here, right? And now it's rising up like this, real steep. It's pretty much a straight up and down pencil.
It's amazing of how much influence country really has on music, because you look at like artists like Steven Tyler, he came out with a country album. Aaron Lewis, he came out with one time, and you're gonna kill me because I can't think of who his actual band was. I know it. And it's gonna kill me.
You'll think about it tonight when you're sleeping.
I know. Or I might just look it up, one of the two. But, and then like you look at, like we mentioned earlier, Beyonce was one that now has come out with a country album. It's amazing of how many artists try to dive into the country scene.
Well, I mean, a lot of it came because country evolved from folk, whatever, or
the other way around too. Is it's amazing of how many people start in country and then they change genres. A popular one nowadays,
Taylor Swift.
She started off in the country music world and now she's doing pop. And another one would be like somebody like Kelly Clarkson. She started off in the country world too, and
she found more success along the little teenagers, so she had to do pop.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Oh my goodness. I was waiting for you.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's why it's just kind of cool to see how, and nowadays it's, the sad part is nowadays it's so hard to tell what's rock, what's country, what's hip hop, because you got people out there like Hardy, and no disrespect to Hardy because he's a good artist, but he kind of blends everything. Jelly Roll is another one that kind of blends everything.
Did Hardy just come out with you don't listen to mainstream country. Someone just came out with a new country song, and it's the heavy metal type country, and I don't remember if it was Hardy or not. I don't remember the voice.
Royal Lynn was another one. She was an underground country singer, came out with a heavy metal country song, and somehow hit 104.1 The Blaze.
104.1 The Blaze.
So I don't know how, and that's That's the sad part too, is you look at a lot of these radio stations and you can flip through
and you hear the same
and
song.
you hear the same songs over and over and over again because
Yeah, there's one song I flipped to one station and it was playing. I flipped to a different station that was a different genre. It was playing. I flipped to the country station. That song was playing. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want to listen to this song.
that is ultimately
The downfall of radio.
yeah, and that is kind of why I listen to 92.9 a little bit more. Granted, they play the same old.
Yeah, this is why got a little Spotify on. Even though I don't like Spotify's algorithm at all, but it's better than listening to the radio.
That's why a lot of times I do YouTube and I can kind of form my own playlist. So.
You can form your own playlist, but I don't want to spend an hour forming my own. Because then I think of a song and it's like I'm driving and I'm like, oh, I need to add that song to the playlist. And I can't get on my phone, well, I can, but I don't want to be distracted while I'm driving, I try to respect the rules and try to respect other people, because if I take out my life, I'm probably going to take out someone else's life. That's just the thing.
And then last week we talked about AI and we touched a little bit on this topic of how AI is starting to take over the music world, and some of your artists are are starting to be outmatched by AI because AI is making more stuff that's
you can literally have 5 songs within a day.
Yeah.
Even more than 5 songs, but you can produce 5 songs in a day. It's crazy. Is that all you have on music, or do you want to add some more?
As far as I know, that's pretty much all I have.
All right, well, that's it for today's episode. We've walked through the evolution of country rock and rap, tackled some of the common misinterpretations around these genres, and given you a sneak peek of what's next in the music world. If you love today's show, make sure to subscribe and drop a review. It really helps us out to reach more followers. Follow us on social media, and we don't really do behind the scenes. We do shorts. And as always, keep listening, keep learning, and keep challenging the norms.
And if you have any topics that you would like us to cover, or if there is something that we did not bring up in this podcast or one of our previous podcasts, that information you would like to know more about or like to know our stance on that topic, don't be afraid to put in the comments below, and we will make sure we address it in one of our future podcasts.
Yeah, that's exactly, yes. This is the Fruitful 3 show. Stay fruitful. Peace, love, happiness, and unity.
Deuces.
And we out.
We out, homie G.